Welcome to the September 2024 meeting of the City of Ann Arbor Zoning Board of Appeals. I am Todd Grant, Vice Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA, acting in the absence of our Chair, Candace Briere. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer board nominated by the mayor and approved by City Council. We have 5 applications or items of business to consider tonight. For each of these, we'll proceed as follows. First, we'll hear from Planning Services, most typically in the person of John Barrett, the city's zoning coordinator to my left. Then the applicant or its representative or his or her representative will make their presentation. The applicant will have 5 minutes. When 30 seconds are left, city staff will remind them that the time is running out. We will then consider public comment. First, we will ask if there's anyone here present in the audience who would like to comment, and then we will ask to see if there are any remote participants. To speak during a public hearing or public comment remotely, press star 9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, here's the phone number and the meeting ID. I'll repeat them twice. The phone number is 877-853-5247. Again, 877-853-5247. And the meeting ID, 938-1648-1007. Again, 938-1648-1007. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of your phone number or by name if you're accessing through the web link. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Please, when you are speaking, to turn the computer and TV down so we get a clear voice from you that's not mixed with an echo. The members of the Zoning Board of Appeals may ask questions of city staff or the applicant. And lastly, we'll acknowledge any written comments received by the board. The board will then discuss the application or appeal and formulate a motion to approve the application or appeal. In order to pass, an applicant needs 5 affirmative votes. If you don't have 5 affirmative votes, and you're unhappy enough, you can timely appeal to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court. With that said, it looks like we have a quorum. Let me do a roll call here. Candace Briere, our usual chairperson, is absent. So, Candace, no, I am here. Dharma Ackman?
Here.
Mike Daniel?
Here.
Dave DeVarty? Absent. Christina Glusak?
Here.
Julie Weatherby?
Here.
Patty Laskowski?
Here.
And Drew Denson?
Here.
And did you want to introduce me? Yeah.
Yeah, before we go any further tonight, I'd like to welcome our newest ZBA member, Mr. Drew Denson, and he comes highly recommended from our chairperson, Candace Briere, and so just go ahead and introduce yourselves after the meeting. Thank you, Drew. Thanks.
Okay, we have our agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? And second, Mike? Okay, or maybe whoever had their hand up first.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, all those in favor say yes. Yes, anybody against? No. We will note that the second item of business, which is ZBA 24-0030, 516 East Liberty Street. I understand the applicant has requested that we postpone that. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, and that will be postponed to,
To next month on October 23rd, if you approve that tonight.
okay. So why don't we, should we decide, vote on that now? Let's vote and decide if we want to postpone the second item tonight until October. Is there a motion for that? Dharma, thank you, seconded, okay. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Anybody
Yes.
against? Okay, it is postponed. We will see you next month, sir.
Really appreciate it, everyone.
We will still have a public hearing on that when it comes to.
Correct. Thank you. All right. And next up is the minutes from our meeting in August. Are there any corrections or changes to the August minutes? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Dharma, again, a second. Julie, good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? No. Okay, the minutes are approved. And now we go to our first item, ZBA 24-0029, 2015 West Stadium Boulevard. John?
Okay, my name is John Baird. I'm the zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. The first petition before us this evening is ZBA 24-0029. The address is 2015 West Stadium Boulevard. Mr. George Haddad, business owner, also being represented by Mr. Scott Munzel this evening, is seeking a 10-foot wall sign height variance from table 5.24-3, other mixed-use and non-residential and special purpose district permanent signs. The maximum height of a wall sign for a building that is less than 45 feet in height is 20 feet from grade. The applicant is proposing to install a 72-square-foot wall sign with an 18-square-foot electronic message sign at a height of 30 feet. The property is zoned C3 Fringe Commercial District. The subject property is located on the west side of Stadium Boulevard and is in the Dartmoor neighborhood. The building was originally constructed circa 1978 as a Ace Barnes hardware retail location. The building is now occupied by the business Procam. Table 5.24-3, other mixed use and non-residential and special purpose zoning district permanent signs requires wall signs to be a maximum height of 20 feet in height when installed on a building less than 45 feet in total height. The subject building is approximately 31 feet in overall height. The applicant requests a variance to install this wall sign at a maximum height of 30 feet in height instead of the required 20 feet. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the first slide this evening is the zoning map, and the subject property is highlighted in blue at the center of the screen. The next slide is the location map showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide is the zoomed in aerial photo of the subject property. This was a slide that was submitted with the application. It's just highlighting the building footprint. This is the subject sign. You can see it's approximately an 8 by 9, total 73.5 square feet. The bottom electronic message sign will be 25 inches tall by 9 feet wide. This is a superimposed concept of what the proposed sign will look like and in its height and relationship to the rest of the building. I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with this property as well. These are the photos that I took of the subject property. You can see where the approximate location of the sign is going to be, right in this area. You see the other side of the sign and the entrance to the building. And then this is looking directly at the building. Mr. Munzel has also supplied some additional materials in front of you if you need to look at those or different photos. That's the end of my presentation, and I can take any questions that you may have at this time.
Dharma?
I don't think this is actually super relevant to the topic before us, but I do have to ask, isn't this TC1? You said C3?
That's correct.
That's okay.
That is on TC1.
I'm just excited
but
about
it's still-
TC1, I
it's-
gotta-
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think it matters to the subject at hand in
It
terms
does
of
not.
signs, but
That's my mistake. It's a recent rezoning, and it's still the same zoning district, same applies, so nothing's changed other than the zoning. Even our computers need to be updated. What I was looking at did not show that, but
Any other questions for John? I have one that's maybe a little irrelevant as well. What was the earlier sign in this building when it was an Ace Barnes or whatever the last business was? Was there a sign on the roof?
I will tell you right now, Todd, I've been back home for 10 years, and that's been vacant since the whole time I've been here. So
okay, all right.
it-
I just thought maybe I can ask the applicant if this
Yeah.
was a sort of a ready-made spot for a sign on the roof because it looks like it's supported underneath, or if this is all new. I'll ask the applicant. Mike?
Yeah, John, so this kind of rectangle that juts up here, that was newly constructed?
No.
Okay,
No,
that's been there.
That's been part of the building for decades.
Yep, okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, the top part as well has been part of the building?
Yeah, this protrusion that comes out of the roof, that portion has been there for a very long time.
Okay, so
Yep.
they're adding a sign on an existing structure?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it, all right, well, got it, all right. Any other questions? No, okay. The applicant, Mr. Haddad, I assume, or Mr. Haddad and Company?
Good evening. Thank you. Michael Zaks, I'm the general manager for Universal Signs, address 16706 Telegraph in Detroit, Michigan. I also have Scott Munzel, who's representing the owners of the building. I think the genuine hardship, and of course you're all familiar with the building, is the way it orients to the road. What you see here was existing. The sign was always in that general area, and actually the sign prior to this one was about 25% larger than this. I can address any questions that you might have on the sign, and Mr. Munzel can address anything as far as ownership and relative issues.
Would you also sign your name, sir? Sign in, Mr. Munzel, as well?
Sure. Yeah, I know the clock is running, although it may not have been turned on, but, so Scott Munzel, I'm an attorney in town here, 301 North Main. To answer a couple questions, there was a sign there when it was an Ace Barnes Hardware. I saw a photograph of that in the last few days, but did not think to copy it to show you. But our understanding is that that has been used whenever the building has been occupied, that it has had a sign on there. You may remember there was a bike shop in there after Ace, and there might have been one other tenant, but I can't recall. But that has always been used for sign whenever there's been a tenant occupying the building. It is an unusual situation because there is a structure, a large slab of concrete that was constructed with this building back when it was originally done. So it's very unusual that most buildings don't have that kind of integral sign opportunity, if you will. You note it's very narrow and it really has only been used for sign. There's no other purpose for it. So that it's a very unusual and unique circumstance creating that building construction. If the variance were not granted, the practical difficulty would be is that would remain vacant. There was a picture of it as existing, which is fairly unattractive, but the signage that could be constructed on that would be only a couple, like 2 or 3 feet above the existing roof line in order to meet the 20-foot requirement. So the signage, there's really no way to effectively use that particular portion of the building for signage that would have any meaning for people driving by. and it's well back from the street. There would be really no adverse impact to the public by granting the variance. It's according to the criteria in the sign portion of the zoning ordinance. This would not affect pedestrian or vehicular safety. It would enhance the ability of the tenant to have a viable business there, which would fall under the economic development goal. It really will have no impact on the quality of life of the adjoining properties. It's a commercial strip. I did include in the photos that I submitted some photos of Stadium Boulevard on both the east and west sides, right in that neighborhood. As you probably recall, it's a retail strip full of many businesses and signage. So there would really be no adverse impact, and it wouldn't create any kind of nuisance. So it's really the unusual construction of the building that would require the variance in order to use that very tall, well, I shouldn't say very tall, 31-foot tall piece of building structure for the signage. Just also, it was not self-imposed. It's been there for years. The applicant did not construct it. And we also think that this would be the minimum variance required to make a useful sign. They tried to make it aesthetically pleasing as far as the placement of it, and so that's the reason why it would be in the location it is. But we think that that's the minimum required. So
1 minute remaining.
Pardon me?
You have a minute remaining.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, that's really all that I need to say. I'm happy to answer any questions, as is Mike.
I will add one thing. I looked on the Google Street View just now. There used to be an Advanced Auto Parts, and that what probably was in the last 10 years. I'm not sure when it was, but I will also add that in 2019, the sign ordinance changed, and that's why it was allowed previous in that location, but not now, because we changed it. And so that's been blank for the last 5 years.
Right. So, yeah, right. It would have lost its non-conforming status when it was non-used, when it was not used for more than
1 year.
Yeah.
So once the building became vacant for a year, they lost their non-conforming status, but the sign was removed anyway. So this is a new sign requirement since 2019, this building, the wall sign height.
Okay, any questions of the applicant?
I had a question.
Yes, Christine.
Is the bottom LED sign ban, is that rotating content?
No, it would typically be what we call a fixed message, so it wouldn't jump, it wouldn't scroll, it wouldn't dance, and we would abide by whatever the regulations are of the city as far as frequency and change of message. But again, it would be a static type message.
Okay.
With these electronic message signs, the message is required to stay static for 1 minute.
Okay. Oh, okay. But it sounds like
Yes,
it's going to be even much longer than...
probably longer. than
Okay.
that, yes.
Just curious. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one question.
Sure.
Why would you not place the sign on the side of the building? Did you consider that at all?
I just think visibility-wise, it just doesn't lend itself to being viewed by traffic on the side of the building. This was what we felt the most appropriate place for it. It's where the signage was on previous businesses. We think it's aesthetically pleasing, and what we're asking for, we don't feel violates the spirit of the ordinance, if you will.
Any other questions?
Oh, I did have another question.
Oh, yeah.
Will it be on both sides of the vertical element, or just, sorry if I didn't catch that in the, is it just looking, yeah, on one elevation, or will it be on both sides of that element?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, the pictures that we've seen have just been on the north, well, that would be the south side. It is tipped slightly, the structure is tipped slightly, so it's more visible when you're heading north on Stadium, meaning the sign is on the south side, but I'm presuming it would be on both sides.
Trying to find a picture here.
So I've only been told it's going to be on one side, because if it was on two sides, it would be over the square footage allotment.
Oh, right.
Okay, I think it's just on that one case.
That's the only the building
Yes.
permit application that I received was for one sign, one side.
No, that makes sense, because you're right, there's a maximum square footage that you get, so that would be it. So there you go.
I guess you get to pick
South
which
side.
side.
South
Yeah,
side.
that's right.
So it'll be the south side of that. Okay, as you're going north, you'll see it.
So I'm put the cursor on, it'd be right here on
Yeah.
that side.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No, okay. Thank you, Mr. Zach and Mr. Moulton.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody from the audience that wants to speak on this? Are there any callers?
There are no callers.
Okay, all right. And did we receive any letters or emails on this?
There was no correspondence.
Yeah, no correspondence, okay, all right. Well, with that, we're in discussion. Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to support this, given the location of this property on a very commercial street. This filling in a just random sort of, structure that's already there. And if you look behind it, there's already a sign that seems like it's higher than that sign that has a few of the other businesses. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with this, given where this property is located on Stadium right here.
Any other comments? Well, I usually have questions and comments, and I wait, because I'm chairing, I wait until last. I realize this is a loose use of grandfathering, but it would be one thing if if the applicant were going to build a tall slab of concrete on top and add the sign. Here, it's where the signs used to be for the previous businesses. I realize that technically that was lost. And it's ready-made for a sign, and it's the easiest thing to do is to put the sign where the other stuff was. So I agree with you, Mike. I think I'll be voting for this. Any other comments? Drew, as a new person, do you wish to? Yeah, this is your first time, your first one. You can make a comment on your first.
You're like a law professor, Todd.
All right, I guess we need a motion, and Dave is gone today. Did you want to step in, Mike, or Julie, or Patty, maybe? I know you have to read the motion. We have to propose a motion. It's in our packet. Dharma? Good, great, wonderful.
Do I read the applicant name? I can't believe I haven't paid enough attention to exactly how he does it. Okay. ZBA 24-0029, 2015 West Stadium Boulevard. Based on the following findings in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 10-foot wall sign height variance from Table 5.24-3, other mixed-use and non-residential and special purpose district permanent signs. The variance allows a 72-square-foot sign to be installed at a height of 30 feet from grade. The sign is to be installed per the submitted plans.
All right, do I have a motion? Do we have a second? Patty, seconded, all right. Ready for voting? All right, Dharma?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So it is passed, sir.
Thank you.
John, thank you.
Thanks, good evening.
So the second matter has been postponed for a month, but because it was noticed for a public hearing, we will inquire first. Is there anybody in the audience here who wishes to speak on 516 East Liberty Street? And are there any callers?
There are no callers.
Okay, with that, the public hearing is closed. We'll have another one next month when it comes before the Zoning Board of Appeals again. On to our third item tonight, ZBA 24-0031, 203 North State Street. John?
Ishuan Tina Shen, property owner, is requesting release from section 5.32.2, alteration to a nonconforming structure, to add habitable space in the basement and a 180 square foot second-story addition to the rear of the residence. The existing structure has 4 units, and the owner will reduce the unit count to 3. The first and second floor units will each contain 6 bedrooms, and the new basement will have a 4-bedroom unit. The property is non-conforming for lot area, lot width on the north state side of the street, and the side and rear setbacks. The property is zoned R4C, multiple family dwelling district, and is in the Ann Street Historic District. The subject property is located on the west side of North State Street, south of Catherine Street, and north of East Ann Street. The property is a corner lot with driveway access from East Ann Street. According to the city assessor's records, the home was built in 1910 and is approximately 2,152 square feet in size. The lot area is 5,052 square feet. The existing multiple family residence has 2 efficiency units and 2 one-bedroom units. The home is a 2-story home with 1.5 story section, with a 1.5 story section, and then a 1-story section behind that. The approved alteration will allow for habitable space in the basement and the new addition to the 1-story section at the back of the home. The property received approval for the required modifications from the Historic District Commission on July 11th, 2024. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the first map shows the subject property highlighted in blue at the middle of your screen, and you see it's at the corner of State and East Ann Street, just south of Catherine. The next slide is the location map showing existing conditions and surrounding properties. And the next section, or slide, is the zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. The next slide is the survey that was submitted with the application for the property, and the subject property is on your right. As you see, it's labeled 203 North State. The next slide shows the existing east elevation facing North State Street. And the next is the south elevation, and that is showing the new elevation on the bottom. And you see where the proposed addition back here where I'm highlighting or circling is going to be. And that's the existing elevation. So you see this back proposed 180 square foot addition between the two. The west elevation that's being proposed, new, and the west elevation existing. New and existing. And then this is the north elevation. And then existing. These are the photos that I took at the inspection of the property. You see the front facade. And you see the back, and as you see, it's got the 1.5 story behind it addition, and then the 1-story addition. And the owner's wanting to put this addition right back here, and then also convert the basement to the habitable space with 4 bedrooms in the basement. And that's just showing the relationship between the two properties. The next one is 207 North State, and that's the next petition before us this evening. That's the end of my presentation. I'll take any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions for John? All right, seeing none, it's now time for the applicant's presentation. Ms. Shen, yes? Hi, good. Please sign in. And how do you pronounce your first name again?
Yi Shen.
Yi Shen? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so my name is Yi Shen Shen, and my address is 4051 Breakwater Drive in Okemos, Michigan. So like John presented, yeah, we are going to propose to add a small addition to the back of the house. And since we already went through the HDC meeting with them, and we are going to remove the artificial siding all over the house, so make it pretty. And currently they have a vertical straight board around the window, and we will remove that, replace with a wooden shutter. So everything will looks very bring according to them, bring this building back to life. Yeah, so, yeah. That's what we are trying to do, restore it and add a small addition and make the basement habitable. Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions of Ms. Shaw? Patty?
I'm assuming that the basement will, I'm assuming that the basement will have egress windows besides?
Yes, of course, by code, yes.
Any other questions? All right, good, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the audience here wish to speak on it? No, all right. Are there any callers?
There are no callers.
All right, and I don't think we received any letters, any communications on this. So now we are in discussion. Julie?
For my part, I think this is adding bedrooms in a place that really needs bedrooms, and the HDC approves it, which is a far more stringent board than probably we are. And it's going to be up to code in a building that probably is not currently up to code. So I'm going to approve it.
Yeah, and by the way, we are going to redo the fire escape. It's not very safe right now, and we will redo it, make it solid, yeah.
Christina?
Yeah, I should have asked this of John. What is, I apologize if I missed this in your presentation, what is the non-conforming aspect of the?
So it was non-conforming for lot area, lot width, and setbacks. Pretty much all the way around.
Okay.
It doesn't, so an R4C requirement requires 8,500 square feet, and so this only has 5,052 square feet.
Okay, so way off, yeah.
And so, yeah, over
Okay,
nearly 3,500 square feet, and it doesn't have the lot width of 60 feet, and then this doesn't meet the setbacks.
okay, thank you.
But it still requires that alteration
Yeah,
temporarily until if the text amendment's approved, that we're pushing forward.
Yeah, but, can I say something?
We're in closed session, so we can't take any more testimony.
Anyone else? Well, I would, Julie, you took the words out of my mouth. I'm going to pass the historic district where our standard is much easier. And it is nice in this neighborhood seeing houses being redone, brought up to code, safety features added. It's nice, and as you said, Julie, an area that needs more housing. So I'll be voting for this. Would somebody like to read a motion, propose a motion? Dharma, I guess you're it. The pressure's on.
We'll do DeMarty, Dave.
It's now a tradition.
DeMarty.
You've done 2 in a row.
ZBA 24-0031, 203 North State Street, alteration to a non-conforming structure. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a non-conforming structure to allow habitable space in the basement and a 180-square-foot second-story addition to the rear of the residence. The existing structure has 4 units, and the owner will reduce the unit count to 3. The first and second floor units will each contain 6 bedrooms, and the new basement will have a 4-bedroom unit. The basement alteration and the second-story addition is to be built per the submitted plans.
A support? Julie, thank you. And ready for the vote. Mike?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Drew?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
And Dharma?
Yes.
All right, it passes 7-0. Great. Okay. We are now on to the next item, which is 207 North State Street. And John?
All right. The next petition before us is ZBA 24-0032, and the address is 207 North State Street. Yishuan Shen, property owner, is requesting relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a non-conforming structure to add habitable space in the basement and 2 new dormers to the attic. The existing structure has 4 units, and the unit total will remain the same. All 4 units will contain 6 bedrooms. The property is non-conforming for lot area and the south side setback. The property is zoned R4C, multiple family dwelling district, and is in the Old Fourth Ward Old Fourth Ward Street Historic District. The subject property is located on the west side of North State Street, south of Catherine Street, and north of East Ann Street. According to the city assessor's records, the home was built in 1920 and is approximately 3,280 square feet in size. The lot area is 8,234 square feet. The existing multiple family residence has 2 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. The house is a 2.5-story home with a gable roof. The approved alteration will allow for more habitable space in the attic and in the basement. The property received approval for the required modifications from the Historic District Commission on July 11th, 2024. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the first screen. The subject property is highlighted in blue in the center of your screen. The next slide is the location map showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide is the zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. The next slide shows the survey that was submitted with the application, and it's directly to the north or the left on this screen, 207, to the adjacent property that we just heard. The next slide shows the existing east elevation as it looks towards State Street. And the next slide is the new east elevation. The next slide shows the existing south elevation. It's on the adjacent to the 203. And the next slide shows the new south elevation being proposed. Next slide shows the rear elevation of the property, which is the west, and the new west elevation. You can see they're putting the fire escapes in the back of the house as opposed to being visible from State Street now. And you see the gables that are being, the 2 new dormers that are being proposed or asked for the, to the existing attic. This is the north elevation. This is the new elevation. You see they do have the, on this elevation, they're showing the egress window wells. And that's the existing elevation. New and existing. These are the photos that I took at my inspection, and you see I'm kind of standing in State Street and looking directly at the home. And this is looking down the driveway on the north side of the property. This is the back parking lot of the subject property. And this is looking at the rear of the subject property. And looking right next door to the south is the previous petition. Showing the relationship between the 2 properties in the parking lot. And that is the conclusion of my presentation. I can take any questions that you have at this time.
Questions for John? I don't see any. Okay. Ms. Shen?
So hello, my name is Yi-Xuan Shen, and so my address is 4051 Breakwater Drive in Okemos, Michigan. So this for 207 North State, we propose basically the same like a 203, and we will bring everything to code, and we will have egress windows, and like the HDC told me that the stairs are like fire hazard, so we will remove that and make the front look better. And the back of the stairs is the same. It's not very feel the cold right now and not very safe, so we will rebuild it and make it look nicer. Yeah, and we like swap some historical window to replace some newer one. Yeah, something like that to restore it. Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions for Ms. Shen? All right.
Okay.
None.
Thank you.
Thank you again. All right. Are there anybody in the audience? No? No? All right. Any callers?
There are no callers.
All right. I guess we are in discussion. This is sort of deja vu all over again, as the Yogi Berra expression is. For the reasons I voted for the last one, We'll be voting for this one. It's passed the Historic Commission, and our standard is pretty easy. Any other comments? Drew? Oh, I guess Dharma.
I'll just add, and in the future, maybe we won't be seeing these anymore once the ordinance changes hopefully come back from the Planning Commission.
Did you want to do a motion, Dharma?
I'm ready.
We can just spread it around.
I'm good. I'm in a flow now. ZBA 24-0032-207 North State Street, alteration to a nonconforming structure. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a nonconforming structure, to allow habitable space in the basement and 2 new dormers to the attic. The existing structure has 4 units, and the unit total will remain the same. All 4 units will contain 6 bedrooms. The basement alteration and the new dormers are to be built per the submitted plans.
Is there support? Julie? All right, ready to vote? Drew?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Dharma?
Yes.
And I also vote yes, so it passes. Thank you again, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
And now on to our last application, ZBA 24-0033, 710 Spring Street. John?
Tim Rayburn, representing the property owner, is seeking a 22 square foot variance from section 5.16.6, subsections A, subsection 2D, accessory uses and structures. The variance will allow construction of a single-car garage that exceeds the maximum allowed building coverage in the rear open space. The maximum allowed impervious area is 216 square feet, and the applicants are seeking to have 238 square feet of impervious area in the rear open space. The garage is a 20 by 14, 280 square foot garage that will be 3 feet from the rear lot line. The property is zoned R2A, two-family dwelling district. The subject property is located on the east side of Spring Street, north of Hiscock and west Summit Streets in the Water Hill neighborhood. The residence was built in 1934, and the lot is approximately 2,874 square feet in area. There is an existing 2-car shared garage with the neighbor to the north at 714 Spring Street. Each property has a garage space, and the structure straddles the property line. A building permit application, BELDGR 24-1020, was applied for on May 3rd, 2024 to demolish the existing garage and build a new 1-car garage for each of the properties. The subject property has less lot area than the adjacent property at 714 Spring Street and a smaller rear setback area. The proposed garage is required to be built 5 feet from the rear lot line, while the garage at the neighboring property will be 3 feet from the rear lot line. If the variance is granted, the garage is to be located 3 feet from the rear lot line and will have an additional 22 square feet of garage area in the rear setback. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the subject property is highlighted in blue at the center of your screen. And the next slide shows the location map with surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide shows the zoomed in aerial photo of the subject property. And you can see how there's a shared garage and how the property line on this aerial photo splits the garage in half. And this is the subject, or the survey that was submitted with the application. And you can see what I was talking about in the staff report. The adjacent property is 36 feet in width, and this one is, the 710 is 30.83 feet in width, which means that they have less area back here in which to put an impervious structure, this 1-car garage, due to the fact that when you multiply 30 times the 20, it allows for 600 square feet, and that would be a greater number. So the one to the north can allow it to be 3 feet, whereas this one would have to be shifted forward and be 5 feet and have less garage in that rear setback. And I hope that makes sense. These are the site plans that were submitted with the building permit application, and you can see what they're proposing, a single-car detached garage, and kind of on these site plans showing what the distance is to the rear setback line. These are the elevation drawings of the proposed garage. And these are the photos I took on my inspection. You see the front of the house and you see the garage down the driveway. And looking directly down the driveway. And this is the garage that's to be demolished. The property line pretty much bisects the garage between the two garage doors. You see the different paint scheme. And this is a photo of their rear yard area and the garage to the left. This is looking directly at the back of the house, just kind of turning around. This is the back of the house of the next door property. And this is very small area in which to take these photos, but this is the subject garage and how it exists now, and it's to be demolished. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll take any questions that you have at this time.
Questions for John? So I have one. I understand that essentially the request is that both garages will be 3 feet from the rear lot line.
Correct.
So if one of the garages was 3 feet and the other one was 5 feet, they would not need to apply for a variance. Is that correct? Is the variance predicated on them wanting to be 2 feet closer to the rear lot line?
Yes, well, the garage per zoning can be 3 feet. That's a setback, that's the minimum. But what it is when you put it 3 feet on this garage, there's too much area. So the area that's allowed to have impervious is 215 square feet, or 216 square feet, excuse me. And they're asking to have 238 back there.
Understood. But the reason they're here is if they were to keep the garage 5 feet away from the rear lot line, they would not need a variance.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
But they're wanting to keep it. Well, I'll let the applicants.
Yep, okay,
speak
just
to
want to
that.
make that clear. Dharma?
Sorry, now I'm more confused. So are there two ways in which they're seeking a variance? A variance from the allowed impervious area and an allowance from the setback?
Nope, just the.
So why would it be okay if it was setback 5 feet? Because it would be smaller?
There'd be less impervious surface in that back 20 feet. Because they would, instead of being 3 feet from the rear lot line, it's 5 feet. So the garage is shifted forward more outside of the back 20 feet.
Okay. And what purpose does the current zoning specification serve?
You mean why?
Why does it exist? Yeah.
It's, in my best analysis, it would be to have less massing to abutting properties. And also for possibly stormwater reasons and having less impervious to abutting properties.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for John? All right, I guess we're ready for the applicant. Mr. Rayburn?
Yep.
You've been waiting patiently. Sign in, please.
Doing a good job. It's Tim Rayburn. My address, 18501 Grass Lake Road in Manchester, Michigan. I think John put it, basically what we're trying to get to here is that both of these garages can sit at the same depth back on the lots, so that when they can pull in, it's a very tight spot to get in back there, so they have equal way to get the cars in and out of the garages. That's part of it. And as you can tell from the existing garage, we're going to make a huge improvement to both sites. Do you have any?
Patty?
What is that? What would be this microphone thing? What would be the clearance for pulling in terms between the building structure, the house, and the garage, if it?
The garages, they're going to sit kind of about where they are now, just because those are a little bit smaller than what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
But the driveway, when it goes in, it's going to open up. There's just enough for them to take a very small car and back out of their garage and come out. And the further we bring them forward, it just makes it that much more complicated.
Any other questions? I have several. Sir, the garages look pretty small. Are they going to be, is the new garages to be built, are they going to be bigger than the existing ones?
Not necessarily. These are 14 feet wide. They're pretty small.
Oh, they
and
are?
they're only 20
Okay.
feet deep.
Oh, so they're 20 by 14?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
They're
that's
very
okay.
small structures.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think from my primitive research says you really need, these days with SUVs, you need a 20-foot garage.
Right.
I mean, I drive a Fiesta, so I don't need the 20 feet,
Right.
but most people do. All right. Are both garages planned to be built similarly or identically, so they look the same?
They're going to look a little bit differently, for sure.
Okay. Well, then this is...
But the same, they're both identical in size.
Okay. But if they're going to look different, what's the big deal with one being 2 foot farther back from the rear lot line? I mean, if they were going to be matchy-watchy, where they're perfectly matched,
Yeah.
then you could say, well, you just want them to look alike. But if they're going to be a little different, when you got two different property owners, so one is not quite on the same distance from the rear lot line. So
The more that we're pulling it forward off of the 3 feet into the 5 feet,
Yeah.
It makes it that much more difficult for these folks to get their cars in and out of their garages back there.
And how so? Is it because it's closer to the house?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Yep, okay, understood. So essentially, you want the garages placed as as close to the lot line as you can get to allow
Yes.
the cars to get in and out without whacking the building.
Correct.
All right, okay. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're agreeing.
You're correct. Yes, I agree with you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you,
Great.
sir.
Thank you.
So any callers?
No callers.
Okay, we do have some letters. We have a, go ahead, John. You want to?
Sure, I can read them off
Yeah,
for you.
go ahead.
We have a Martha Hill at 741 Spring Street, who was opposed. We have Aaron Hula and Callie Corsa at, I'm not sure if they put their address down, but they are in favor of the,
They're the neighbors, John.
the neighbors, okay? They're at 714 Spring Street, and they're in favor, in support, excuse me. And there's a Kyle J. Marsh. He is with KJM Residential Design Studio, and he is in support. And there is a Brian Tomsick at 706 Spring Street, and he wrote a letter in support. And Chiara Barbier, hope I'm saying that correctly, at, I'm not sure, I didn't include an address. Oh, I'm sorry, yep, 722 Spring Street, and they were also in support. So 4 letters in support and 1 opposed.
And I think the gist of the one that's in opposition from Ms. Hill is that she's concerned about property runoff. But we're dealing here with a difference of 22 square feet, correct, in the rear parking lot?
That's correct.
Okay. But the garages are essentially going to be the same size they are now.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Very close, very
Yeah.
similar,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, all right. All right, we are in discussion. Patty?
So I used to live in that neighborhood, and I can tell you that, like, the garage situation is very difficult. And so, especially if you have, like, a small lot line, or small plot property, and you have a garage that is sitting close to the existing house structure to pull in and out without, like, a long driveway is pretty difficult and could be intimidating, right? And so I'm just thinking of new customers and even customers with kids, like, you want to make sure that it's easy that they don't hit the building that they live in, right? And then the second thing is, I can't think of what you would do with the 2 feet behind the garage. Like, so, like, what's the point?
Okay, well put. Any other comments? Okay, I guess we're, as Candace says, we're ready for a motion.
All right. ZBA 24-0033, 710 Spring Street. Based on the following findings, in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 22 square foot variance from section 5.16.6A 2D, accessory uses and structures. The variance will allow construction of a single-car garage that exceeds the maximum allowed building coverage in the rear open space. The maximum allowed impervious area is 216 square feet, and the applicants are seeking to have 238 square feet of impervious area in the rear open space. The garage is 20 feet by 14 feet, 280 square foot. That will be 3 feet from the rear lot line. The new detached one-car garage is to be built per the submitted plans.
Support? Gee, two hands. So Patty, I think maybe just by a little bit of the finger. I think she was there before you, Julie. All right. Ready for the vote? Okay. Patty?
I vote yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Dharma?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Christina?
Yes.
And Drew?
Yes.
All right. The motion passes. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Any unfinished business? I don't know of any. Does anybody else know of any unfinished business?
I don't believe there's any unfinished business at this time.
Okay. Any new business? Communications from council, Dharma. Anything you wish to share?
Yeah, I think, maybe this would have been an update in the last meeting, but I wasn't here. But we rezoned our last of the 4 identified corridors to TC1, and that would be the Washtenaw Stadium area. And so that was done a couple meetings ago.
And anyone who wishes to say anything, there's nobody here in the audience. Are there any callers, people waiting to say something at the end of the meeting? No?
There are no callers.
No callers, all right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Julie, support Mike and Patty, I guess everybody. Anybody against adjourning? No, okay, we are adjourned. See you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.